and that's when it went to sinking in that they're actually charging me with this. They took me an arrangement and appointed me two court-appointed attorneys. And at that moment, that's when I realized they're really gonna try to convict me of this. And then when I met with the attorneys and they told me the state is seeking death, it's like I, I went into like a daze, like how can you be seeking death for something I didn't do? What I'm willing to offer you 3 years in prison in exchange for a manslaughter plea if you're willing to agree. And I told him no.
Thanks very much for sitting down and joining me, Herman. I appreciate you taking the time. Can you give us like a little bit of an idea of what you did now, and we'll get into your false conviction and your background and everything.
Well, my name is Herman Lindsey. I'm Florida's 23rd death row exoneree. I've I am the executive director of a national and international organization, Witness the Innocent, which is built on death row exonerees. And then I also am the chairman of the board, vice chairman of the board for Floridia's Alternative to the Death Penalty.
I see. Okay, so we'll get into your story. It was a hell of a thing to happen. Before the night of the murder and robbery that you were falsely convicted for in 1994, what was life like for you up until then? Like what age were you in 94?
In 94, I think I was 21, turning 22 when I was when this crime happened. Life for me before then, I was like a football player and into sports before I got in trouble. I got in trouble at a young age, at the age of 14. I let someone manipulate me to go with participate with them at something, and I chickened out at the last minute, but we still got caught. So, I took that. So I waited over at the door at the age of 15, 16 years old. And from there, I tried to get my life back. When the first time I ever been in trouble, I end up going to prison. So when I got home from prison, I didn't want to go back to prison. So I went to go get a job. And every time they did a background check, I was getting laid off, even though I'm 14, I mean 15, 16 years old. So I started selling drugs and things like that. But I always been the type of person that helps the community, help people out. A lot of people feel like I got a soft heart. And then I end up getting married, and right before I got accused for this and had kids. So I end up getting wrapped up in that.
Were you still kind of operating like outside the law and making your money from drug dealing?
Well, at that time, no. When this crime supposedly happened in 94, no. I had my first son in 93 and 94. He was born in 94. And I was in the midst of rehabilitating myself. I had started a car wash, a mobile detailing business, and I was just working and trying to spend time with my son.
Okay, very good. Can you tell me about the actual night in question? How was it that you ended up getting kind of put in the frame for something that you weren't involved in?
Well, the actual time that it happened, I'm not sure about. I was approached after it would happen, and you know how you have just say your child been into something, and the detective come over talking to you, wondering, did you see your child do this, or did your child, did you know your child was involved? They did approach like that with me concerning my cousin, and I answered them truthfully, and everything. And after that, 12 years later, they charged me with it.
Okay, so sorry, just for anyone who doesn't know, that the incident we're referring to, I believe, was a robbery and a murder on a pawn shop owner. That's right, isn't it?
I don't think she was the owner. I think she was a worker
Okay, okay, fair enough.
because the owner came and testified at the trial. So I don't think she was the owner. I think she was a worker there.
Okay, was there only one individual who was actually involved in the incident, like who robbed and murdered, or was there someone else with them?
That is a question that has failed to be answered because he has not spoken. Um, but at the time, uh, around about that time, we had a big problem down here in Fort Lauderdale where these young guys was robbing pawn shops, breaking in pawn shops. And I know him and the state key witness was running around together in that group. I know they was like best of friends, and both of them end up going to federal prison for committing those crimes. At the beginning, according to the reports I read, uh, the state attorney, I'm not the state attorney, but the detective um, had information where a person named Eddie Carter allegedly told them in a statement back in 1994 that the state key witness Mark Sims was bragging about committing this crime.
The murder and robbery takes place on a particular night. How long after that were you approached by police, and were you arrested? Were you arrested then, or just they just came and spoke to you?
Well, I had a related charge, which I was in prison for. Um, uh, Trafficking of cocaine. I was out on bond when I was getting my life together, and um, I ended up catching a sentence. Right when my sentence was about over 12 years later, a detective asked to come to the prison to speak to me, and I said no problem. So when I went to speaking to him, uh, he explained to me the detective that had been working on the case for the last 12 years decided to retire, so he's new on the case. And he was asking me questions, but the questions he was asking, I didn't want to lie to him or malinger. If I wasn't sure about it, and if I couldn't remember it, you know, that's what I would say. I can't remember. I'm not sure, And he felt like because I was asking that question, um, it was suspicious, but I was answering them questions because it's hard to think about something that you wasn't really involved in 12 years ago. I mean, unless it was an outstanding birthday and you still wouldn't remember all the details, so he considered that suspicious. So he went back to Broward and moved towards a grand jury indictment. But when he moved for that grand jury indictment, he used evidence that was presented that could be presented on my cousin, Mr. Lorray, that couldn't be used against me in that to obtain that grand jury indictment.
Okay, so was it the case that between 94 and 2006 you knew that you're potentially going on trial for this crime, or you were being
No,
um
no. After I spoke to the detectives in '94, I heard nothing else from them until 2006. And then in 2006, that's when he moved to file charges. No charges was ever filed until 2006.
Jesus, that's crazy. Okay, so can you tell me about do you remember the moment when I don't know how it works, you probably get served with some kind of papers, but when you realize that oh, oh shit, I'm being
Actually,
I'm being accused of this crime, like I'm gonna go on trial for it.
at the beginning, when I was first arrested from it, I was transferred from prison to the jail and charged with murder. I was like calm, cool and calm because it's like I've been in the system before, so I know the state has 45 days, and then they usually drop charges, right? So I'm like, okay, I set these 45 days and I go home. But then they took me to an arrangement, and that's when it went to sinking in that they're actually charging me with this. They took me an arrangement and appointed me two court-appointed attorneys. And at that moment, that's when I realized they're really going to try to convict me of this. And then when I met with the attorneys and they told me the state is seeking death, it's like I, I went into like a daze, like how can you be seeking death for something I didn't do? What they done lost their mind, you know? And I felt, you know, I done seen some bad things happen in the justice system. So I felt like I was gonna get railroaded. You know, it's so much things going in my mind. And you know, it's just was unbelievable at the time.
Geez, yeah, I can only imagine. Did it go to a trial, or was there some kind of a plea deal, or?
No, actually, what it went to trial. Actually, after sitting a couple of months in the county jail, I told my lawyer I don't want to sit here. I'm ready for trial. I didn't do this, so um, we moved for a motion to petition the court for a speedy trial, which they have to give me a trial within 90 days, and the judge granted it. So because majority of the cases for murder cases stay in trial. I mean, you wait for trial 2, 3, 4 years before you even start trial. I didn't want to wait that long. I didn't do this. So I moved for a speedy trial. When I was granted the trial and we beginning to start trial, the first day of trial, the state attorney came to me and he talked to me just like me and you talking. And he said, Herman, listen, my boss will be mad, but um, we have to resolve this issue. I'm willing to offer you 3 years in prison in exchange for a manslaughter plea if you're willing to agree. And I told him no. So we started picking jury.
Okay, okay. How like from the moment you found out that you were going to be going on trial, how confident were you that you would be seen for what you were, which was innocent? How
I,
confident of you were you?
when I went to trial, I was feeling real confident that, you know, I was going to get found not guilty. I was real confident, even though the judge and the prosecutor allowed some things to go in that shouldn't went in. But you know, I still felt like, you know, and the thing about it, in trial, all the signs that I was not guilty was there, you know, and the jury failed to pay attention to it or question anything.
I see. But like just before going into the trial, I assume I think it's under law that the prosecutors need to like present all the evidence that they're going to use. You know, was there anything there that actually made it look like you did it?
No,
Um,
no, no. In
what was
fact,
like?
I'm gonna tell you the evidence the state used. In 1994, when the detective first talked to me, I was honest with him. He asked me, have I ever been there? I told him yes. So I also told him I punt my game there and I punted it under alias name, right? So he went there, he found that punt slip where I pulled out my game. Now, when we got in court, the state attorney tried to use that as if I had been there prior and I was taking out the place. But I was being honest, they didn't know nothing about the pawn slip. So, you know, if I was involved, I know to shut my mouth until I get an attorney. I wouldn't have said that, you know, be honest, you know. And the jury didn't think nothing of that. The second piece of evidence they used was a guy, I forgot his name, Alfonso something. And only thing he testified to is that I asked him, did he see any witnesses? Right. So he was trying to get a $10,000 reward. It was clear that they showed that he was trying to get the $10,000 reward. The next piece of evidence used, which was the evidence that I say clearly should have threw a red alert to the jury. My ex-wife, they have been telling my ex-wife that I was getting out of prison, that I was gonna kill her, and all of this stuff here, and I never said any such thing of that, right? So they were telling her she needed to cooperate with them and everything. So she gave a statement, right? And when she gave the statement, she got on trial. When we came to trial, I guess she didn't remember what they rehearsed. So the state and her went to arguing, and the state moved to impeach her. And the judge told her, you need to tell the truth or we'll lock you up for perjury or whatever. And she said, well, Your Honor, if I got to tell the truth is I told them, Herman, I don't know nothing about Herman being involved in this. I only reason I gave that statement is because the detective was threatening to take my kids. He was threatening to lock me up. He was threatening to harass me at my job or harass my grandmother, and they basically they told me what to say, and they told me they was gonna give me a $10,000 reward that I never seen. And that evidence right there, I would have popped heads. Hold up, this they threatened her. She said they threatened her. She said she don't know anything about it, and she said they supposed to give her a $10,000 reward. That would have popped questions in my head, but it didn't with the jury. The last piece of evidence they used was a guy named Mark Sims. Mark Sims was actually the prime suspect in the case in 1994. It was investigating him as the prime suspect. And the reason why, because they had a statement from Eddie Carter saying that he was bragging about he was the one that committed this crime. And every year that the detective, when he talked to him, he had notes. He always said he didn't know anything about it. When the new detective came up, all of a sudden he said he was in a holding cell with me and I confessed to him I committed this crime. And, he was in federal prison at the time for robbing pawn shops and burglaries, as I said once before. And that's the only evidence they presented.
So, I mean, the only things they had were people saying that you were involved.
Well, actually, nobody even said I was involved. That's the big. If you look at the Florida Supreme Court case opinion wrote in my case is a rare case where all 7 Florida Supreme judges ruled I should never even been convicted. And they states in there that nobody even gave testimony that I participated in the crime, that I was at the crime at the time, at a scene of the crime at the time the crime took happen, or nobody showed any involvement in their testimony.
Jeez, that's insane. That's really cool. You would think that the lawyers that you had, I think you said they were like government appointed. Were they did they try to rip it apart in court as they should? Like,
My attorney, Christopher Poe, I think is one of the greatest attorneys ever. He fought for me. But I had a judge that she just got death qualified. So this is one of her first death penalty cases. And she's allowing things to go because she know to go to the appeal courts, let them deal with
it. Okay. I see. Do you think okay, so do you think that the cops that they're obviously acting dishonestly if they're making up stuff about you making threats and then threatening your ex-wife and so on? Do you think they knew full well that you didn't do it and didn't care, or do you think they actually?
I don't know, because he was a new detective, and one thing about me, I like to be fair about life. I like to be fair about life. And the thing about it is, I don't know how much research he did on the case, how much of the investigation that he really read, or was he just trying to put something together to just to say because he's new, I solved this case. You get what I'm saying? So I don't know exactly what his motive was, but that is police tactics to go to someone else and lie to them, saying, "Oh, this person told us this, or this person uh, uh said they gonna this and that to you when they catch you." And, they try to put stuff in people's head to make them talk. So I understand that's a tactic they use, which I think is a very unfair tactic, but it's a tactic they use. And I cannot argue with it because I have to look at the good and bad side of it. What if a person actually committed it and they needed to know, and they use that tactic? I can't say because I I, I didn't commit the crime, I'm against that tactic, so I have to look at things in open.
Hmm. Okay. Yeah, I got you. Did the fact that you kind of had like a bit of a rough background, that you've been caught for drug dealing, you'd had a juvenile detention, did they bring that into the case? Did you think it made an impact on the jury?
Well, they didn't exactly say what I was arrested for, but they said I had been convicted of a felony. Um, and that's one of the biggest things about defendant testifying on their own behalf. I think through this investigation, if I had not had such a bad, well, it's not bad, but it's a record, I think that I would have had a more likely chance that the detective wouldn't have went forth to trying to charge me. So I do think my back did play a part of his judgment as to um, filing these charges. As far as the jury's concerned, like I say, one of the biggest thing about a defendant testifying is most defendants want to testify on their behalf. But when they go on the stand, they get to get questioned about their criminal background if they have one. And then the jury already had the concept that because he committed felonies before, that he's, they prejudge him. They don't think a person can change. So they feel like if he did this way, then he has something to do with this. And that's the catch-21, because a lot of juries say, why didn't the defendant get up and talk for himself? So that background plays a heavy part.
I see. Again, this would just be speculative, but do you think race played a factor at all? Did the jury, I know that prosecutors and defending attorneys would like fight over the jury, like in particular, like the racial demographic. Do you think that came into it anywhere?
In my eyes, I cannot really say, and because again, I'm open-minded. I don't feel like I don't feel like I got convicted because I didn't have likes, because I did have, I think, two or three on there. As far as racism, I do know after trial that we found out that the foreman of my juror was fired from his job, which he was working at Wachovia Bank, for making racist statements. So, I don't know how much that played a part in that jury room because we don't know behind the scenes. You know, I think that if you look at the number of people if I was to ask you this question, what do you think is the main reason we have wrongful convictions?
The one main reason, I think like cops and members of the justice system, they kind of have an incentive to sometimes just push a case through, even if you're not that sure, because it gets it off your plate and you have a bunch of other stuff to deal with. Yeah, I think there's kind of like perverse incentives um, for just getting a conviction and not even being 100% sure, if I had to say.
Well, just say, for instance, Florida has 30 death row exonerees, right? I think we have a total of 86 exonerees throughout the state. The rest is non-capital. But one thing that all those all those exonerations have in common is the jury rendered the wrong verdict. So that tells us our jury system is the key to actually having justice. But how can you expect someone to come in and judge a person's life without having any real knowledge? Because when you stepping in, okay, how can I say? When you step in that courtroom, it's a totally different language, a totally different talking perspective. And who's to say that person quite understand? Do they really understand what it means for the state to prove beyond a reasonable doubt? Do they really understand that? Do they really understand the jury instructions? And I think that one of the things we need is to put like a short video together so that people that's have to attend jury duty will look at that in all perspectives and know what their rights. Some jurors don't even know they have the right to question. If something ain't right, question it. Some jurors don't realize that.
I see. I see. Do you think that having a jury system, it can be improved, of course, but do you think that like having a jury of your peers, is the way to go instead of just like a judge that makes up his or her mind?
But see, that's the thing. We will never have a jury of our peers. We would never, no case will ever have the juries of their peers, because you got to understand, society is broken up in 5 different levels. You got the upper class, you got the upper middle class, you got the middle class, the working class, and the lower class, right? Now, if you're from the lower class, you're not gonna have a a a, a, a full jury of just lower class. So you're gonna have different peers on that. So when we say a jury of your peers, then we need to get technical and say we need the jury of them particular peers, because the way people in the upper class look at the people in the lower class, some of them will declare you guilty off the top just because you was arrested and the news said it. So then you got the middle class that they done seen some of the things that actually happen. But see, down in the lower class is where you can see everything. You see the police brutality. You see everything, the good side of the streets and the good side of the street, the good side of the law. The bad side of the law, the bad side of the street. The middle class, upper class don't see that.
Okay. Yeah, I get you. Okay, so can you tell me? Sorry, how long did the trial go on actually?
My trial went, I think, 2 weeks.
Okay, it was pretty short. Do you remember, God, what was it like the moment when like the hammer came down and you realized that they sentenced you to death?
When they found me guilty, I couldn't help but like smile in disbelief. Like, did this really just happen to me? And it's crazy. And the second phase, well, when it came to the death penalty, I was already prepared for the death penalty. And the reason I was prepared is because the state relied their case, the conviction, based on Mark Sims' testimony that I confessed to him. 2 incidents happened after I was found guilty. One, we was at the elevator. He was escorted by 2 officers. I was escorted by 2 officers. And I asked him, I said, bro, you don't know me. Why are you lying on me? He replied, it's nothing personal. It's payback. He got to do what he got to do to set himself free. Right? So we moved for a new discovered evidence, a new trial based on new discovered evidence to show his character that he has motive, that he's trying to set himself free. The judge denied that, but while we was waiting in court the day of the denial, They made a mistake and put Mark Sims in the cell with me, with 35 other inmates. And me and him was talking. While me and him talking, two officers, a sergeant and a lieutenant, came in. And everybody heard him say, he don't know me. He'd never had this conversation with me. And that he was only trying to do that because Lorraine had done snitched on him in his federal cases. So he was trying to snitch on Lorraine to get some of his time cut off. Now, 35 people hearing, inmates hearing this, two officers, a sergeant and lieutenant. That night, we stayed up to 2 o'clock in the morning, bringing each one of them up there, getting a testimony. But if you take the factors of these inmates out and just use those that sworn to uphold the law's testimony, the sergeants and the two deputies and the lieutenant, then that should be enough weight to reverse this and grant a new trial. But instead, she denied it. So they uphold my conviction based on a person who is a suspect in the case and have all the reason in the world to push it off on somebody and ignore the people that sworn to uphold the law. So when I was going to the penalty phase, me and my lawyer already decided, we already knew that when I was going to death penalty, and he told me that was better anyway because I get a better review.
Okay. Okay. What was it like? Geez, what was it like even speaking to the man who's in large part responsible for you being in that situation? I don't know that I'd be able to kind of hold my cool and not, you know, not attack potentially, like.
Well, I'm not bitter about it. You know, I've been in the streets. I see people do things that's horrendous. You know, I just let God handle it. You know what's to do to him? I do something to him and get myself in more trouble. Nah, it's not worth it. So, you know, um, I mean, I'm thankful for what happened to me now. I'm very thankful for what happened to me now. At the first beginning, it was like a drag and it was like a burden. And then sometimes it's still like a burden, the trauma, the mental thoughts. But the thing about it is that I look at it myself like I was a chosen one from God because in the Bible, he took everybody through something to be a voice. And here it is, he took me through this and now I'm cleaned out. I'm a great voice. So, you know, I always look at the good things out of the bad because when you dwell on the bad, then you make mistakes and things can be worse.
Okay. Okay, I see. So you actually get the death penalty. You get like it gets decided that that's what's going to happen to you. You then went you then spent how many years? 3 years actually living on death row.
I actually spent 18 months on death row. My case is, like I said, is a blessed case, a unique case. First time in history where uh, I went from within 3 years, I was tried, convicted, sentenced to death, and released. You know, on my direct appeal, they didn't hesitate so quickly to answer back that this ain't right. In fact, the Justice Quinn has said that she believed this case was the most horrendous prosecuted case she ever seen, and that she hoped that no one has to be prosecuted in the way I was.
What was the method that you were supposedly going to be executed with?
Lethal injection.
Okay, okay. So I mean, was there? Okay, you got like your death penalty conviction. Did you like straight away after that? Were you straight into appealing it? Did you actually think at any stage that I'm actually going to end up getting this injection? Like,
Well, when I first got sentenced, it's like when I heard the words, "We, the people of the state of Florida, hereby sentence you to die by lethal injection." When that dropped, I think I'm still staring at the wall right now today. That very wall, I couldn't believe it happened, you know, and I mean, there's nothing I can do about it. Nothing I can do about it. And I lost faith in the justice system, so I didn't think that the same justice system that just convicted me would set me free. So when I was on death row, I see a lot of people there and their trials are, I mean, their appeals are taking 10, 15 years and 20 years, they still appealing things. And I'm like, how long is it going to take for me? And, this and that. But I thank God that mine was very quick and swift.
okay. Um, did you have like the same attorneys that handled your trial were the ones who were doing all this work to get you free?
No, no, I was appointed a attorney Jeffrey Anderson from the 4th DCA, which is a great uh, attorney. I was and he got the brief and everything there pretty quick for me.
Okay. Okay, very good. On death row, what's like daily reality like? Do you kind of mix like other prisoners do, or
No, when I was on death row, we stay in our cells 24 hours a day. We go out 2 times, 2, 3 times a week for reg, 2 times for showers, or you got to go out for medical or something like that. But when you're on death row, it's like you're one big family. Once you get your death sentence and you're on death row, everybody look at you like family, and they like we have to stick together and we have to look out for each other, and that's just the way that community is,
um, do you did you talk much with other inmates?
Yeah, we talked even when we go to rec, we play basketball together and stuff. So, I have a lot of great friends um, that was on death row. In fact, two of them, my great friends that was on death row, has been exonerated, Seth Penelope and Commenting Aguilera's. But they done been, but then, I done had one of my friends executed, Van Poole, so it's very hard when I go to these executions, which I got 10 today. It's very hard and emotional when you have to go there and you see one going away.
Okay.
It's,
Did
it's like watching it's like watching somebody pass away with cancer and you can't stop it.
I see. Did you when in speaking to other death row inmates, did a lot of them also claim to be innocent?
No, no. A lot of them, they accept responsibilities. They'll tell you they committed, but not in a bragging way. You got some that's just mentally disturbed and will brag about that, and I think that's a sick person. But majority of them is very remorseful for what happened to them. And if they could stop anybody from making that same mistake, they would.
How were you treated generally by the guards?
The guards was pretty cool to me. It's like anywhere. If you go in there and you be an a-hole, they're gonna treat you like an a-hole. You go in there and be respectful, you're gonna be respectful. So, I was always respectful. Yes, sir, no, sir. And have conversations. I don't look at them as I look at them, they come they men and women that has family and they come there to do a job. And that's just the security. So I mean, just because they job titles, it's not like, oh, I'm on this side, you on that side, and it's a war, or you give them a hard time.
Okay. Okay. Did you okay, so from like the day you went into death row, did you have like a date that your execution was set for?
No, I never made it that far.
Okay.
I
Okay. So
didn't
you,
make it nowhere near that far. There's nowhere near that far. Thank
okay, good. So like at every stage of you of that 18 months on death row, like sorry, the entire 18 months were you in the process of appeals? Was there kind of something to look forward to, like in that sense?
Yeah, that's the hope channel. We call that the hope channel. Uh, that's the litigation and stuff is the channel of hope. Hope something in that litigation will set you free. I mean, I'm executive director of Witness to Innocent, and Witness to Innocent. We have death row exonerees from all around the United States. And like Derek Jameson was scrapped to the journey 4 times, 4 times on his out of Ohio. He was about to be executed 3 or 4 times, and each time before they'll stop it, and then they found out he wasn't the one.
So hold on, they actually had him. They had like the injection ready. What
Everything
stopped them?
ready, everything ready for him 3 times,
Did like a new piece of information come in just as they were about
and
to?
they right before they finished executing. Uh, they're we ain't talking about the day before. We talking about minutes before he'll get a stay, and the and it goes back in appeals and things like that until they turned around and found out that he was not the one. And there's other exonerees that didn't happen to do that. And you welcome any one of them exonerees that witness sentence you would like to interview. You can interview. I can set it up and arrange for an interview for you anytime. If you want a group of us, go to our website witnesscitizen.org, and you'll see the stories on there. You
Oh,
know,
thank you.
and all of us been affected, but we all live now as a family.
Okay. How confident was the lawyer who did like the appeal stuff after you were already convicted? How confident was he? Once he looked at the evidence in the trial and spoke to you, how confident was he that he'd be able to get you off?
Well, see, that's the thing. And that's why I'm trying to get my rights back, because I work with attorneys now trying to do mitigation work. And believe it or not, most attorneys are not uh, so confident. It all depends on what judge, what court system, you know, because it's a lot of things that goes in front of these judges that should be plain out, dismissed or something, and it doesn't. So lawyers just try to have faith that the judge would do it, but lawyers don't have too much confidence themselves from the experience of cases they've been dealing with. You know, I mean, if you turn that question around, state attorneys feel very confident because it's like they're in partnership with the judge and they got unlimited money and resources. So it's a big difference there. And but I don't think attorneys can say they're too confident when it comes to presenting things in front of certain judges.
Okay. After looking at the evidence, did he must have said to you like Jesus, this is really shoddy evidence. It shouldn't have got anywhere near a conviction. Was that his opinion?
Yeah, all my lawyers say the same thing.
Okay.
In fact, I can remember when I got my death sentence, I was walking out of the courtroom, and the prosecutor came over to me and said to me, "Listen, Herman, let's go up there. Don't get in no trouble. I guarantee you this case come back on appeal." So he guaranteed me. He's like, he already knew something was wrong. That he was when they first came out guilty, even he was surprised that he got a guilty verdict. So that's our great American justice system.
Oh yeah, sorry. Okay, do you think that you said that like the turnaround from getting your conviction to actually to getting your appeals and getting out was like exceptionally fast. Like there's some guys who were waiting like over a decade for it. Do you think, reading between the lines, do you think some influence on that was the fact that your trial was such a disgrace in terms of the evidence that got used and everything? Do you think they kind of
Because,
knew and were like, yeah, let's clear this up?
because if you lay all the evidence down, if you lay all the evidence down that they had against me, you don't have no question there of did he not do this? You know, because there's nothing there to say he did. There's nothing there to say, excuse me, that I participated. So there's no questions there. So now, when you have a case where uh, you got testimony of somebody saying they seen you do it and things like this in an innocent case, but it's DNA that ain't been tested, you know, you can look at it and question it. Well, is this person telling the truth or not? But in my case, you don't have nothing to question.
Do you think that do you think that like judges and stuff kind of knew that if this case came under examination, it would be seen to be uh it would be seen to be wrongful, and that sped them up? Do you think that came into it?
Can you repeat that question?
Like it was very rare that it seems to be very rare that after a conviction the appeal comes around like straight away, that you were free in such short time. Do you think that because the trial was such a disgrace that they kind of knew they had like a mess to clean up, or something that if it got examined would make them look very bad, so they're like, okay, let's right this wrong very quickly? Do you think that
No,
that
no,
was
no, no, no. Florida Supreme Court is the highest court in the state of Florida. So, they, if it was the fourth DCA, then maybe, but that's the highest court in the state of Florida. So I don't think they was worried about whether somebody else look at the case or not. They was following the law.
okay? Okay, I gotcha. Along your time in death row, like up until the moment that you were told that you were free, were you like building up to that? Did it look like, as the months went on, did it kind of look like you were making progress? Did it look like, okay, I'm getting closer, and then I'm free, or was it just you didn't know and then you found out you were free?
You don't know because when we have the oral arguments, they can wait a year, 2 years, 3 years before they make a decision. The courts don't have to make a decision within a matter of days. They can take their time and make a decision on the case. So how long they make a decision, and that's one of the things that goes on now, that some people doing appeals, and they are the decision from the courts are being held up, maybe because a case that's present now in the U.S. Supreme Court that they're looking at, or maybe a case in another higher federal level court that they're looking at, and it'll hold up the process of making a ruling, because they don't want to make the ruling and then need cases here come and say the totally opposite. So sometimes it get held up that way, but most of the time it's just a plain out stamp.
Okay. Okay. Do you remember the moment when, I don't know if it was a phone call or a visit or a letter, that you found out that you were free?
I found out I was free through the lieutenant and the psychologist at the prison. When the decision came out, I didn't see it, but it hit the newspaper that morning, so they were able to see it that morning, and they came to my cell and showed it to me. So I was happy about it.
Can you explain to me just even the God, even like the physical sensation of of hearing that news? It must have been God above. I mean, it must be the kind of thing that you can only feel if you were in your such a dire situation, you know?
It was great to have my freedom back. You know, I was feeling outstanding that I had my freedom back. But the problem came in that you I'm an open-minded person, and at first I wanted to stay shielded up and stay away, but then FADP got me out speaking. So when I went to speaking, then I went to realizing that a lot of people don't really know what's going on. So I speak. But one of the biggest problems in my life is that regardless of what, every time I try to rent a place, look for a job, that background check come up. And even though now that I had to fight the courts for 4 years to get them to reflect that on the record that I'm not guilty, um, it still shows up on the background check. And
Sorry, so
there's no way of getting rid of that. If you're
if
arrested for anything, it goes on your background check and stay there.
okay, so if a potential employer were to look up your background check, would they see that you were convicted of murder and then exonerated, or how would it actually show up?
It depends on which ones they do. Most of them will say murder, not guilty. Then you can explain to them that, I got exonerated of it. But think about it. You're talking about a totally different class now. So when you're trying to work, like for instance, you're a manager of Burger King. You may go ahead and say, you know what, I review this, I'm gonna give you a chance, right? But then the ones up higher are gonna say no because they don't understand. They just looked at the fact that you're arrested for murder.
I know you have to head off soon, and I appreciate you sharing everything you did. Very much appreciated. Okay, is there anything you want to leave us with, like any last any kind of last thoughts?
No, I just wish I didn't never get compensation, which majority of death row exonerees don't get compensated by the states. Here in Florida, we got 36 exonerees, only 4 people got compensated. I just wish I can get my rights back. I want my rights back because I really want to run for a politician spot.
Oh, really? What particular type of
I want to go in the Senate or the House here in Florida.
Okay, okay, very good. With the aim of highlighting this kind of false convictions and
No,
let's say
not just to highlight this, but to I've experienced a lot of things in life, unemployment, all of this. I've experienced all of this stuff, and I look at things with an open mind. They they most legislators depend on data from either the police officers or someone that has no real experience of knowing what actually goes on. For instance, if you say you going to visit, if a senator say they going to visit a prison, they gonna make that prison look pretty and everything before they get there. So they're not gonna see what's really going on. But I've seen what really goes on. So I think I could make a very different impact in our system on creating laws and fighting for laws. So I want to try to do it.
thank you very much for everything you shared. It was quite a story. I'm very glad. I'm very glad that you're able to live to live free now. You don't have to spend any more of your time in prison. So thanks very much for joining me. I'll I wouldn't mind speaking to other exonerees. So yeah, maybe another time.
Well, let me know and look on our website and see which one you want to talk to because it briefs you with their stories. So if you want to do that, just go ahead and just let me know which ones.
Good stuff. Thank you very much. And again, I appreciate I appreciate you taking the time.